All right, folks, we have to go to the GEM system, and then Harvey K is going to join us. David, what do we got?
Well, we got a fun one. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite,
Ooh, that's what I like.
our favorite friends over at Facebook. We're going to be talking about Libra and this new digital currency. So,
To help with connectivity.
yeah, honestly. So Facebook is now pushing a new digital currency, and if you read their white papers and a lot of the stuff that's going on around it, they're really pitching it as a kind of cryptocurrency blockchain. But there's some issues even with that definition of what it is. But just so we can be on the same page, what Libra is going to be is it's going to be a digital currency that allows for people to be able to purchase goods and services online. So there's already a group of vendors that are going to be accepting Libra, like Spotify, for example. And the way it would work is that you would buy Libra and it would go into a digital wallet, which then you could use in any vendor that would accept it. Or you can exchange your Libra for the currency that you use. So if you bought it with US dollars, you could get it back for US dollars. Mm-hmm. So the reason it's very different than something like Bitcoin is that Libra is actually going to be backed by a basket of currencies. And this is where some of the stuff gets funny later. But that also means that it's not going to be as volatile as Bitcoin. It's going to be something that's actually going to be quite stable because it's going to be pegged. It's going to be backed by a reserve, and by its mandate, it has to be 100% reserve. So everything that Libra has to, they have to have a monetary value behind it. So where it gets interesting, though, is that they have what is called validator nodes, and these are basically the people who are the original investors. And to be a validator node, and to have voting rights on the Libra Association, which is basically going to be like the central bank of the Libra system, you have to invest $10 million up front. And already Spotify and a few other blockchain companies, a couple private investment firms, and notably Kiva, which is a microloan company, which we all know sort of gets into some shady practices in the third world, entrapping a lot of very desperate people into debts. That could be quite dangerous. Anyways, they're an early backer.
To
help with connectivity.
Right.
And of course, this being Facebook, there's this whole noble platform that they've been pushing. Predominantly, they've been talking about the 1.7 billion people who are unbanked and do not have access to financial services. So let's talk about that for a second, and also talk about how this is going to be making money for Facebook. The way that this works is that they're going to be taking in a huge basket of reserve currencies, and for all the money that's coming in, they're going to be basically putting that into a fund. So when you put money into the bank, you get interest on it. That's not going to be the case with Libra. If you have your money in Libra, Facebook and all these other companies are going to be extracting that interest rate. And when we're starting to talk about the potential for what Libra could be, that's going to be a significant amount of money. So when we're talking about these people who are currently unbanked, what they're offering for them is that they can participate in a system where they might be able to buy things online, but they will not have the services of a traditional bank, namely getting interest. Don't worry, they'll be taking care of the interest for them. On top of that, the real argument is that these are people living in economies where their currency fluctuates dramatically. Mm-hmm. And this is where we start to get into a major issue. If you're in an economy where people are taking out other money, it makes your currency even more volatile.
Right.
So in fact, we see a country that's already having an economic issue is now facing an absolute crisis where they're not even control of their own monetary policy. And of course, this being Facebook, people are very worried about privacy. Because this is going to be because if they're your bank, Facebook is going to be able to move from being able to guess what you like to buy to knowing what you'd like to buy.
Right.
Now, Facebook has created a separate entity that will be running their Libra for them, so there won't be direct control from Facebook to Libra. But even if you look at their white paper, consent is a very important thing. So I'm quoting now from the white paper on Libra. Calibra will not share account information or financial data with Facebook Incorporated or any third party without customer consent. And as we know from Facebook's history,
you could totally
getting that consent
take that one to the bank.
is a pretty good weasel word. So, seriously, when we're talking about what's being developed is we're finding a way that, because the possibility of Libra is massive because they already do have so many people connected on a social network, that the potential for this being successful is, somewhat high. we'll see it's still a little ways away before they launch it, and governments are already looking into it. Because, there's a few issues where it's like, does Facebook even have the legal right to be doing this? What they have is a license that they can sort of hold money to facilitate transactions. But basically what this is starting to look at is like a basket of different currencies that is going to be rising and falling in value. That something seems very similar to like an ETF that's based on a basket of currencies. So there's going to be that issue. And then the last issue that we want to talk about is liquidity. So as we know from the financial crisis, liquidity is a massive issue. And if this becomes a currency that's being widely used, if there's any kind of financial instability where people start wanting their money not to be Facebook money, but they actually would like good old American dollars,
actual money.
right?
Money.
You're going to be into a situation where, there could be a massive run. And this not being a bank that's backed by the Federal Reserve, if there is a run, what kind of responsibility does the global financial system, the European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, have to this massive
FDIC.
gamble? So this could be something that could make any kind of massive shock in the global economy or even the digital economy much bigger than it naturally would be. So the last thing is this question of sovereignty, where we're just going to say it's like, what this is creating is a group where a few corporations are trying to create their own currency completely separate from government overreach or even any responsibility to any kind of democratic control from people. So we're talking about companies like Visa and Facebook being able to run their own money supply. And is that something that we're comfortable about being developed in the 21st century? Personally, I don't think that that's quite a good idea. At the same time, too, if we're going to be moving all of this value into something that's controlled by these very shady corporations that have history of abuse, do we want to be in a position where we might have to be bailing out these companies for their mistakes and their greed? This is starting to look like, if it's successful, something that will be a cartel of elite corporations moving outside of government control, any kind of regulation, and any responsibility to the real economy, to the people, or to democratic society.
I just love the balls of them actually doing like 2014 Silicon Valley speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, guys, even just on a PR level, that ship has sailed.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are not trusted. Even wine moms who are freaked out about Trump get that you people are scumbags and structurally dangerous to our society.
It's so cynical, too, to use the poor, like the severely poor in this world, as a shield for, to basically create this massive profit.
Well, there's a huge, that just goes back to, this was huge in the Clinton and Obama worlds of micro loans, the unbanked billion. There were Peruvian and Indian economists. I think it was Hernando de Soto was a Peruvian economist who was just give poor people property rights. That's the big answer to everything. Get them into property relationships. This is, to the extent, and I don't, obviously they're very ideologically malleable, and there is a lot of extreme right-wing politics in Silicon Valley. But to the extent that these companies really are just like a product of neoliberal Democrats, this is the branding and the strategy is totally on point from where that world comes from. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.